Have you ever stood alone, looking out at the horizon and felt that quiet ache within? The silent whisper that asks if any of this truly matters? Have you chased dreams, conquered mountains, held everything you once desired, only to feel the hollow emptiness still lingering inside? Why is it that even after we've filled our lives with accomplishments, relationships, and possessions, there's a question we cannot escape? A haunting question, quietly demanding an answer. Is this all there is? Leo. Tolstoy, one of the greatest literary minds in history, stood exactly there, at the very edge of fulfillment, yet feeling utterly empty. Celebrated by the world, praised by kings and intellectuals alike, he was a man who seemingly had it all. Yet, at the peak of his fame and fortune, Tolstoy was tormented by a void so profound that no applause, no achievement, no recognition could fill. He asked questions most of us fear to even consider. What meaning does my life have that won't be destroyed by death? His struggle was not merely intellectual, it was a deeply personal, existential crisis that brought him face to face with despair. And from that darkness, he emerged with insights so powerful, so simple, yet so overlooked, that they hold the potential to transform us as deeply as they transformed him. Today, we'll walk together through the hidden passages of Tolstoy's heart and mind. We'll uncover how a man who seemingly had everything realized he truly had nothing, and how, in facing the abyss, he discovered a profound and timeless answer to humanity's greatest question: what is the meaning of life? Perhaps by the end of this journey, we'll find a reflection of ourselves in Tolstoy's story and learn what it truly means to live, not merely exist. Leo Tolstoy had scaled the highest peaks of human achievement. His novels were revered, his name echoed across continents, his words cherished as sacred by readers who felt he had captured the very essence of human existence. From afar, it seemed Tolstoy had everything one could dream of: a comfortable estate, vast wealth, an adoring family, and a literary legacy that would surely transcend generations. Yet, despite all this, Tolstoy found himself staring into an abyss so deep that it seemed to swallow every ray of joy, every spark of meaning. He described this hidden despair in vivid, haunting terms. My life stopped. I could breathe, walk, eat, sleep, but there was no life in me. Imagine the intensity of such a confession. This man, whose words filled others with profound insights into life, found himself utterly empty, frozen at the crossroads of existence. His internal world had become a barren wasteland, devoid of the purpose he desperately sought. Tolstoy's crisis was not merely one of passing sadness or momentary dissatisfaction. It was a crushing existential torment. He grappled daily with a question that overshadowed every success he had ever achieved. If everything I build, everything I create, will eventually vanish, why build it at all? No applause, no praise, no fortune seemed capable of silencing the cruel whisper of mortality. Death, the great equalizer, reduced all of his life's efforts to dust. If death awaited everyone and everything, Tolstoy reasoned, then what significance could his achievements possibly have? He likened himself to a traveler lost deep within a dense, endless forest. No matter which direction he chose, no matter how quickly he ran, he was chased relentlessly by a silent beast: the knowledge of death. This creature stalked his thoughts day and night, reminding him of the futility of every accomplishment, every material gain. The creature wasn't merely death itself, but the awareness that death made everything temporary, fragile, meaningless. In his diaries, Tolstoy wrote with profound vulnerability, "I could not attach any rational meaning to a single act of my entire life. My success, my fortune, my family, everything would eventually disappear, erased by the relentless passage of time." This realization became the shadow that followed him relentlessly, turning even moments of joy into haunting reminders of impermanence. Tolstoy's isolation deepened. The fame that once thrilled him now became a burden, a suffocating prison from which he couldn't escape. He felt trapped by the expectations of society, burdened by his reputation as a brilliant thinker, writer, and philosopher. The people around him admired his life, envied his status, yet they couldn't see beyond the surface. No one noticed the quiet pain behind his eyes, the hidden anguish that lay behind his calm demeanor. Fame had turned him into a silent sufferer, a man whose life looked perfect from afar, but who privately battled a profound emptiness. Yet, Tolstoy's struggle was also deeply relatable. He wasn't merely lamenting his own life. He was echoing the silent cry of millions who chase external validation, believing it will fill an internal void. His story becomes our story, a reflection of humanity's universal struggle for meaning, purpose, and true fulfillment. Consider this for a moment. How many times have we convinced ourselves that our next success, our next accomplishment, will finally bring the lasting satisfaction we seek? How often do we move the goalpost of happiness further away, thinking it lies just beyond the horizon? Tolstoy lived that illusion, reached its farthest shore, and discovered an unsettling truth. Nothing external could ever fill the infinite abyss inside. As he looked out at his accomplishments, he saw them as meaningless trophies, unable to fulfill the soul's deepest longing. The applause of crowds sounded empty, hollow echoes reverberating in the chambers of his heart. The wealth and luxury around him felt cold, sterile, and distant. It was as if he'd spent his entire life building a magnificent castle, only to realize, once he moved inside, that it offered no warmth, no shelter from his deepest fears and questions. Tolstoy's despair intensified with each passing day, becoming an unspoken torment. He questioned the very foundation of his existence, wondering if there was any genuine meaning to be found, or if life itself was just a cruel joke, an empty stage play performed before an audience oblivious to its futility. Each morning, Tolstoy awoke with an oppressive weight pressing against his chest, a heaviness that refused to relent. He described it as if he was drowning slowly, suffocating under the knowledge that life's achievements would eventually vanish like footprints in sand. But in the darkness of his despair, Tolstoy unknowingly began the journey toward a profound awakening. The abyss he faced was terrifying, yet it held within it the seeds of transformation. Sometimes it's only by facing the stark emptiness within that we begin to seek something more authentic, more lasting. Tolstoy's pain became his greatest teacher, guiding him toward questions he had avoided his entire life. Questions not about success, fame, or material possessions, but about love, simplicity, faith, and genuine human connection. As Tolstoy stared deeper into that void, something remarkable began to stir inside him. He recognized that the answers he sought could not be found by pursuing more achievements or intellectual understanding. Perhaps, he realized, true meaning lay in something far simpler, yet far more profound. And so began the next chapter of his journey, a search not outward, but inward. A journey that would not only redefine his life, but would leave behind a legacy powerful enough to guide generations who find themselves asking the very same questions. Are you ready to follow Tolstoy deeper into this journey? To explore what he discovered when he dared to step beyond the superficial? Because what awaits is not merely his story, but perhaps the answer we all silently seek. Tolstoy had reached a place many only glimpse from a distance, standing upon the mountaintop of worldly success, only to realize it was barren ground. Fame had deceived him. Fortune had betrayed him, and prestige offered no comfort. Everything he had trusted to provide meaning had crumbled like sand between his fingers. Now, at the edge of despair, he embarked upon an intense, restless quest to find something, anything, that could fill the void. Initially, Tolstoy turned to philosophy, convinced that the great minds of humanity would hold the answers. He plunged headfirst into the writings of Plato and Aristotle, Kant and Schopenhauer, Nietzsche and Pascal. His hunger for answers was insatiable. He read voraciously, hoping desperately to find some intellectual foundation upon which he could rebuild his shattered sense of meaning. Yet each philosopher seemed to deepen his despair rather than relieve it. In Schopenhauer, he found the brutal affirmation that life is fundamentally suffering, an endless cycle of striving and frustration, pleasure and pain, leading ultimately nowhere. Nietzsche declared that existence was devoid of intrinsic meaning, encouraging humanity to forge meaning through sheer will. But Tolstoy felt drained by this prospect rather than empowered. Kant's meticulous reasoning offered intellectual rigor, yet failed to illuminate the darkness Tolstoy experienced deep within. Philosophy had promised clarity, yet now it seemed to mock his search. Feeling lost, Tolstoy shifted his focus to science, hoping logic and reason might offer clearer answers. He examined biology, physics, cosmology, each discipline revealing the intricate, impersonal workings of a universe indifferent to human happiness or suffering. According to science, human life was merely a series of chemical reactions, chance events unfolding in a vast and uncaring cosmos. Instead of solace, Tolstoy found an even deeper loneliness, an existential isolation intensified by science's cold indifference. He vividly expressed this anguish in his writings. Science says you are an accidental lump of matter that crawled from chaos and will soon dissolve again into nothingness. How then could my life hold significance? The more he probed into the mysteries of existence, the more meaningless life appeared. Desperation began to haunt his every thought. Tolstoy wrestled day and night with questions he could neither silence nor escape. Why continue living if life held no intrinsic value? What could possibly justify the human struggle if all achievements would inevitably vanish into oblivion? But even in this bleak landscape, a subtle, persistent voice whispered that he could not give up, that perhaps his approach itself had been misguided. Maybe answers were not to be found in abstract concepts or intricate theories. Perhaps the key to life's meaning was hidden in simpler, overlooked places. With this realization, Tolstoy shifted his gaze away from the pages of dense philosophical texts and scientific treatises and turned instead toward the living, breathing world around him. For the first time, he truly observed the ordinary people who inhabited the edges of his aristocratic existence. Peasants laboring quietly in the fields, farmers tending their animals, humble workers whose lives seemed untouched by existential doubt. Tolstoy began to notice something remarkable. Despite their poverty, despite their lack of education or recognition, these people appeared to live with a quiet confidence, a peaceful acceptance of life that he had never known. They rose each morning with purpose, labored diligently, and faced hardship with surprising dignity. Their lives, though difficult, seemed rich in a simplicity and purity he had lost long ago. Intrigued and humbled, Tolstoy started to talk openly with these ordinary people, engaging them in conversations that revealed something profound and unexpected. None of these simple men and women spoke of philosophical ideas or scientific truths. None debated existential theories. Yet, they lived with a sense of meaning so clear, so intuitive, it needed no rational justification. To them, life's meaning wasn't a complicated riddle to solve. It was an obvious truth to live. Tolstoy marveled at their intuitive faith, their quiet strength, and their genuine happiness. Things he, with all his sophistication and intellect, had failed utterly to grasp. Slowly, he realized that perhaps the answers he had sought in grand theories were hidden in plain sight, expressed in the simple acts of everyday life. Honest work, caring for family, acts of kindness and compassion. He wrote about this profound realization with humility and awe. I had looked everywhere, in every book, every theory, but the answers I needed were never there. They lived instead within ordinary people who had never considered that life needed any explanation at all. This revelation changed everything for Tolstoy. It marked the beginning of his true awakening. For the first time, he understood that life's meaning couldn't be intellectualized or rationalized. It had to be experienced directly, felt deeply, and expressed through simple, genuine acts of living. The pursuit of meaning was not about accumulating knowledge or status, but about cultivating sincerity, authenticity, and compassion. In these ordinary, humble individuals, Tolstoy saw a reflection of the truth he had long searched for, a truth more profound than all the philosophy and science combined. He understood now that perhaps his earlier despair arose precisely because he had been searching for meaning in the wrong places, seeking answers through intellect, logic, and pride rather than humility, faith, and love. Tolstoy had embarked on this search for answers, hoping to find intellectual clarity. Instead, he discovered something even more valuable: the understanding that meaning wasn't an abstract idea to be dissected and analyzed, but a living truth woven into the fabric of everyday existence. And so, his journey took a critical turn. From the lofty heights of intellectual despair, Tolstoy descended into the fertile valley of simplicity. Here, among the humblest of humanity, he would begin to discover answers far deeper, far richer than he ever imagined. Are we prepared to follow Tolstoy further down this path, into the gentle heart of simplicity itself? Because the answers waiting for us there may not only illuminate his life, but might just transform ours forever. Tolstoy realized profound wisdom was hidden not in complex philosophies or achievements, but in the quiet simplicity of everyday life. By observing ordinary people, peasants and workers, he saw they lived with genuine purpose, peace, and acceptance. Their meaning came from honest labor, family bonds, and daily kindness. Inspired, Tolstoy abandoned his wealthy, aristocratic lifestyle and embraced simplicity. He dressed plainly, worked with his hands, and reconnected deeply with nature. In these modest actions, he discovered something he had long ignored. True happiness isn't found in material gains or societal validation, but in fully experiencing and appreciating life's everyday moments. This simple insight transformed his perspective entirely. No longer did he chase external success. Instead, he sought fulfillment through authentic human connections and humble living. He openly challenged society's emphasis on endless consumption and ambition, highlighting how such pursuits often left people feeling empty. Yet, embracing simplicity wasn't easy. His family resisted his new path, creating painful tensions. Tolstoy learned firsthand that genuine simplicity required courage, self-awareness, and commitment, especially in a world that values appearance over substance. Despite the challenges, Tolstoy's newfound simplicity freed him from the pressures of ambition, revealing life's purpose clearly. Meaning wasn't a distant goal, but a simple truth found in small moments, acts of kindness, honest work, and genuine relationships. Ultimately, Tolstoy invites us all to reconsider our own pursuit of happiness. What if the fulfillment we chase through wealth, status, and achievements has always been right here, hidden quietly in the ordinary beauty of everyday life? Tolstoy realized meaning was incomplete without faith and love. But he didn't see faith as blind belief or religious dogma. Instead, he saw faith as deep trust, a sincere belief in something greater than oneself. Observing the peaceful acceptance of ordinary people, Tolstoy recognized that faith wasn't intellectual, but deeply personal and experiential. It wasn't about theology or doctrine. It was about genuinely connecting to life and to each other through love and compassion. Love, Tolstoy discovered, was more than emotion. It was an active daily practice. It meant treating every person with kindness, respect, and empathy, not expecting reward or recognition. He believed love was the essential force that gave coherence and purpose to life. He began teaching that the real meaning of existence wasn't found in ideas but actions, living with genuine compassion, humility, and care. Tolstoy emphasized that authentic faith required living consistently with these values every day. In this simple insight, Tolstoy found the meaning he long sought. Faith and love gave life purpose by connecting people to one another, creating meaning through everyday kindness, forgiveness, and generosity. Tolstoy also learned to see death differently. Instead of fearing or ignoring it, he realized death was a powerful guide. Acknowledging mortality inspired him to live with greater purpose and authenticity. Death, Tolstoy argued, reveals what truly matters, reminding us that superficial pursuits ultimately fade away. Recognizing our finite existence encourages us to invest our lives in meaningful acts, loving others, being compassionate, and living sincerely. He taught that facing death openly allows us to free ourselves from meaningless distractions, focusing instead on what genuinely matters. Tolstoy embraced death as a natural part of existence, allowing him to live more intentionally, appreciating life's precious, fleeting nature. In short, Tolstoy saw death not as the end of meaning, but as the very reason life should be lived with purpose and love, making every moment count. Tolstoy fully embraced simplicity as a practical solution. He advocated living modestly, not because possessions were inherently bad, but because the constant desire for more distracted people from true happiness. He simplified his life drastically, abandoning luxury, wealth, and prestige. Instead, he focused on honest labor, sincere relationships, and genuine experiences. He argued that simplicity brought clarity, peace, and freedom, allowing people to appreciate what truly mattered. Tolstoy's simplicity became a powerful social critique, challenging society's obsession with wealth and status. He urged people to reflect honestly. Do the things we chase genuinely fulfill us, or are we chasing illusions? His message was clear. Happiness and meaning were found not in possessions or status, but in living authentically, simply, and compassionately. Yet, Tolstoy's journey was not easy. His family struggled to accept his new beliefs, causing deep personal pain. His wife resisted his rejection of their privileged lifestyle, leading to conflicts that troubled Tolstoy deeply. He discovered that living authentically often meant confronting societal pressures and misunderstandings. The simple life required courage, as genuine authenticity frequently led to isolation and criticism. Tolstoy openly admitted these struggles, emphasizing that meaningful living doesn't guarantee comfort. However, he remained committed, believing genuine purpose required consistency, courage, and integrity, even in the face of difficulty. In his final years, Tolstoy fully embraced his principles, choosing simplicity over luxury, humility over pride. At age 82, he famously abandoned his wealth and status, leaving his home secretly at night, seeking peace in simplicity. He died in a humble train station, away from luxury, wealth, and fame, a powerful symbol of his lifelong quest for authenticity. Tolstoy left behind a profound legacy, a call to question society's superficial values, emphasizing love, compassion, simplicity, and authentic living. His greatest insight remains timeless. Life's true meaning isn't found through intellectual pursuit or material success, but through sincere, compassionate actions and genuine connection with others. Tolstoy's story invites us to look closely at our own lives. It gently challenges us to ask ourselves, are we seeking meaning in superficial things? Or can we find happiness in simplicity, authenticity, and compassion? Ultimately, Tolstoy reminds us that meaning isn't something we find intellectually. It's something we live daily through honest work, genuine love, and humble faith. So now, ask yourself honestly, what truly matters in your life? Perhaps the answer, like Tolstoy's, lies quietly within you, waiting patiently to be lived. Thank you for joining this journey. May Tolstoy's insights inspire you to live with deeper meaning and greater authenticity from this moment forward.